Exports soar as Nebraska ships more meat overseas. Ahead on Grow, a look at the numbers and what it means for Nebraska. Plus, we visit with Senator Deb Fischer on a pair of issues she says are a burden on ranchers. And we dive into the next farm bill straight ahead on Grow. Welcome to the program. Nebraska's efforts to expand trade appear to be paying off, with big-time increases in both beef and pork exports. New USDA statistics show Nebraska beef exports jumped 12%, and pork exports are up an impressive 20%. Governor Pete Ricketts says that shows how effective trade is to grow our state. Beef production is Nebraska's top industry, and exports in 2017 exceeded $1.26 billion, making Nebraska the top beef exporter 2 years running. 2017 saw Nebraska beef the first ship to China and Israel. Nebraska's beef exports to China, for example, jumped from 0 to 17 million. Overall, Nebraska pork exports near $500 million, good enough for fifth nationwide. According to USDA statistics, several partners increased trade with Nebraska, including Japan, South Korea, and the European Union. And as the top beef state, Senator Deb Fischer says ranchers need certainty after a court ruling over livestock emissions. Here's more.
Well, it's really absurd that this requirement would be out there.
Senator Deb Fischer says ranchers like her family should be able to do their job without unnecessary distractions, like more government paperwork to document air emissions.
I don't know how you would come out to my ranch, for example, and try to travel over the hills to look at my mother cows and calves to figure out what the emissions are. I mean, it's really just ludicrous.
Speaking with us from D.C., the senator says she's part of a bipartisan coalition that's introduced what they're calling the Farm Act to exempt manure from being reported, as some now interpret existing EPA rules.
It really just applied to Superfund sites where you have hazardous waste materials to be cleaned up. It was never meant to impact farmers or ranchers.
On the EPA's own website, the agency says there is no generally accepted methodology to even make the calculations the court wants.
It's really important to get this passed so that producers don't have to deal with something that there's not even any mechanisms in place.
Environmental groups led by the Waterkeeper Alliance say large-scale livestock farms are devastating rivers and lowering quality of life. They say people deserve to know how much hydrogen sulfide and ammonia is being polluted by animal feeding operations. Ag groups see that as an activist agenda and stand with Senator Fischer.
There are no issues with livestock emissions here in comparison to anything like Superfund sites with chemicals.
Fischer says the bill would bring certainty to farmers and ranchers.
This is common sense. We've got Democrats and Republicans who are supporting it.
Senator Fischer is also working on the Farm Bill, and it comes at a time when we've seen declining farm income. Experts at Kansas State University have been looking into the safety net programs. K-State says the new bill will present challenges and ultimately important decisions for farmers to make. Michael Taylor, agricultural economist at K-State, recently published a paper saying the new opportunities for farmers to safeguard and bolster the industry are good, but too much of a good thing could also leave farmers high and dry.
The challenge for producers in that decision was that whichever one they picked, they were stuck with that one for the next 5 years, for the 5 full years of the legislation. And now with hindsight, I think producers can look back and they can say, well, either that was a good decision or it was a poor decision, but it was pretty up in the air at the time that I made the decision as to, which one was the right way to go.
And that gets back to the individual farm decision to choose a safety net program. For some, it's a decision they have no regrets about, but for others, it's been a struggle. And making a decision under the next farm bill could be tough given the uncertainty, and experts say all of that not good for rural America.
The livelihood of a lot of businesses in those small towns depend on how good it is for the farmers. You know, they're service providers, they're input providers, and so if the farmers aren't doing well, then those small town businesses aren't doing well, and it can really adversely affect things in terms of the ability of those small towns to keep things going and to continue to be vibrant.
Taylor's research is published in the Journal of Applied Economic Perspectives and Policy. Of course, low commodity prices remain a hot topic. A couple of dozen people attended the West Central Cattlemen's Day, covering many topics like cover crops and lameness in cattle for the upcoming season. One of the beef educators from Nebraska Extension says the big interest has to do with commodity prices, and he says many farmers are looking for alternatives they can do on cropland.
Can you start growing forages as opposed to corn? Can you start growing forages as opposed to soybeans, maybe even wheat, and what options there are after that?
He says there are some economics behind it still needing to be evaluated.
It is an opportunity. You can expand your herd if you want to graze summer annuals, something such as the forage sorghum, Sudan grass. Also, if you're looking into doing it during a different time of the year, say you're talking about cool seasons, maybe oats, brassicas, something of that nature, extending a grazing period on a field.
Dates and times for other Cattlemen's Days will be on our website, nebraska.tv. And despite the sluggish farm economy, there are signs of improvement in the state budget. For January, state revenue beat expectations. The governor cautions it's too early to call it a turnaround. Meanwhile, senators continue the push for property tax relief. There's that effort we've talked about at length to put a proposal on the ballot, and just the threat of that may be enough to bring together a compromise, according to one of the rural senators at the center of the discussion.
Senator Breezy and me have been in numerous conversations. Neither one of us has ownership over anything, and we're willing to work with anybody to partner to put a package together that can pass with 33 votes.
And if the legislature does not act on taxes, Friesen said he would support a ballot issue, but he would rather address it in the legislature without having to put it on the ballot. And here in central Nebraska, cattle stop traffic. Clinton shares this great video with us from horseback, driving 250 mama cows 7 miles home, crossing Highway 92 in a video getting lots of attention on Facebook. Clinton, we appreciate you sharing that with us. And it's much more than calving season, no kidding. Eric sends us this video of baby goats. He used the Chime In feature on our website. It's easy to do. Go to nebraska.tv on your computer or on your phone or the free NTV News mobile app. And when you submit photos or video, it goes directly to our server so we can quickly get it on our website and on the air. Now, results of our poll question about technology. When it comes to agricultural technologies of all kinds, it looks like we've got a few early adopters. Most say they would rather invest in proven technologies, and some are a little old school and maybe behind the curve. A handful take a different approach. As always, results are not scientific. Later, would you get married in a swine barn? Brides don't have to be embarrassed anymore. That story coming up later. Next, some controversy about a hog barn in Kansas. Stay with us.